we afraid of our clients?
For me, I think we definitely should be afraid of falling short of the expectations.
So one thing which I hate, right, is that clients ask me for meetings on weekends.
Usually in my experience, at the tail end of a project, the clients like that, the relationship has already been damaged somewhere along the way.
Manage the relationship.
I don't know. Did somebody write
Huge.
answers out there? Because all of you turn up at the same.
Welcome to ArchitectuREAL, where we explore the real lives of architects and get real in the world of architecture.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today wherever you are viewing us from. Today we have Alvin, Ping Jie and Wen Tian with us, and we're going to dive into some interesting questions. So let's start with the first one. As architects, we are service providers. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree.
You agree?
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Well, I guess that's unanimous. So I think we're always balancing this, expectations, bringing, the difficult, news to clients, and also bringing good news and things like that. But I think one thing that many of us can agree on is that when we have a good relationship with our clients, things are always easier and smoother to go through from the start to finish. So how do you guys actually manage that good relationship with your clients?
Manage the relationship.
I don't know. Did somebody write
Huge.
answers out
No.
there? Because all of you turn up at the same time.
No, I'm just trying to prove from our examples and our experience.
Okay.
How do
I
you?
didn't know. Hey guys, no cheat sheet up there.
No, I guess it's also because it's so, maybe because it's so part and parcel of who we are as architects, right? It's not saying like, we bend over backwards every time, whatever that they want, but it's just that it's part of the business that we have to ensure that the clients are happy with the service. Yeah, so when, and the question is, as if like we have to do something very special, but it's kind of part and parcel of everything we do. And of course, like first thing, of course, performance, right? If you promise something and then you perform, of course, they'll be happy. Make sure that things are on time. They are, they go to site and then see that, okay, there's good progress. They ask for something, you promise them, okay, it's delivered to them. Yeah, so what else?
Personally,
Okay, maybe sometimes it's like really doing a bit of going the extra mile. So one thing which I hate, right, is that clients ask me for meetings on weekends. Because weekends are so precious for us, right? Especially when we have our families. But sometimes when you I make it as a point that I don't ever work on weekends.
Whoa.
But when you say, okay, for this time, I'll go with you to go and see this supplier, then it actually becomes something quite special to them, that you are like
Okay. So you already managed the expectations.
it's not managing.
Something special.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, you set the boundaries first, but you do have a bit of that allowance for you to kind of do this, so that they do feel appreciative that you are taking your personal time. Yeah, so that is a personal time. That's not working time. I'm taking personal time out, and I'm, going, with you for this visit, so that you are properly advised. So that really matters. Some small little gestures like that.
I think that's very interesting. Like one of the things that I want to ask you guys is that, so you mentioned, right, you don't work on weekends and you make it a point to let them know this. One of the things that I always struggle with is there is a potential client that's coming to inquire about our services, but they say, can we meet a site on a Saturday? So that's the very, very first meeting. Will you go and meet them on a weekend? Will that then set that expectation that, hey, weekends are fine? I'm always very cautious about that. Like, try to put it on a weekday. How about you guys?
BD no exception lah.
Oh no, actually for me no.
Okay,
because it's if you open the floodgates, that's it. Then they will question, hey, why are you not meeting on Saturdays? You met me on a Saturday, right?
Yeah.
So it's about how you really set the boundaries. Yeah, so even if it's just to meet them, potential clients, I'll really say no. But maybe if it's a bit more flexible, I'll try to make it a late afternoon, evenings, where it's a bit easier. Yeah, because evenings, essentially, weekday evenings, it's kind of like just OT lah, which we always do OT anyway. So that's not so bad. Yeah, so again, boundaries and what is your buffer. Yeah, so really don't set precedents. No, really, I mean, you need to rest, right? We need to rest. We need to have that time for ourselves. We have to set the boundaries right from the start. That's my advice.
I'm not sure. Lean a bit more towards what Wen Jian said, because when it's prospect or business development wise, right, I give a bit more flex.
I see.
But at the same time, I also agree with what you say about I don't want to open the floodgates. So usually my default will be, can you meet on a weekday? I only do working hours.
Yes.
So then they get it.
Yeah,
because they're also working, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So then they get, then you start to align on the expectations, but then you might say, as a first visit, no issues, I can come down and have a look at the site, whatever with you. But then you kind of give the hints already. So the next time is, can we have a follow-up meeting? How about the same time Saturday? Oh, no, how about weekdays? Or I can accommodate maybe 6 o'clock. So usually that works out, at least from my own experience. And if they ask me for a meeting on weekends, I have to ask my boss, who is 9 years old. My boss usually says no. So I just tell him, my boss says no.
Boss gotta go to the playground.
But that's a very good trick, because if they have a family as well, they get it.
Yeah, they get it.
So you kind of suck it out.
Sure.
Yeah, actually, that's a very interesting thing that you just said, because
Like
sometimes if you're running your own firm, right, like if you're working in a firm, when a client throws something hard, you say, sorry, my boss say cannot. Like if you're the boss, right, they're gonna look at you, why cannot? So I like the answers. I can my kid or my wife at home is the actual boss.
So it helps to break the ice. Then sometimes they can understand if they have family as well.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. Yeah.
Usually it works. Then because you have some kind of alignment on it, like they're trying to develop their place, you're trying to do your job. Let's see how we can meet.
Humans after all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but definitely something for young practice to manage this because right now I'm struggling with the part about messaging on weekends.
I don't reply.
Sure, maybe I need to start to.
Same.
It's a habit.
I think it's a.
I think the risk of burnout is very high, and you don't realize it until it hits you.
But the fact is, those coming out at the start, they are so keen to,
understand
the drive. There's that survival mode. Okay, for those who just came out, and wanting to.
It's difficult, but I think from what I mentioned earlier, that has been quite effective for me, which is I must separate myself from the business. I must. It cannot be me. Then there's issues. Once you separate, I think it helps you with decision making.
Being a service provider, the next thing we will be questioning is, are we afraid of our clients?
I think, maybe I'll just...
sure.
Yeah, we just get the ball rolling, right? So, I think it's natural and it's normal to be intimidated by the client. I myself am intimidated by a client a lot of times, but I think what's more important is you have to be compliant to yourself, which is your own principles, and then that will be the guiding path in your interaction with the clients. I mean, that's usually what I tell myself before I meet a client or a new client. So I don't know about what you guys think.
Yeah, for me it's a bit different. I don't think it is a good first step to be afraid of our clients. For me, it's quite different. But maybe also because my projects are mainly quite small and private residential projects, so I tend to want to be friends with the clients. So that has to be that I thought maybe is a better footing to kind of get into the project. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't feel the same, but I find that if you are scared of a client, then it's kind of like a toxic relationship kind of thing, and it may become quite difficult, to actually bring the project forward. So that's why I don't agree.
Yeah, for me, I think we definitely should be afraid of falling short of the expectations of the clients, because if we really to recap the Architects Act, our duty is to serve our clients with complete fidelity. So this actually is a rather very heavy responsibility. So and of course, same as Pinjam, I'm also doing small projects, and understanding the amount of landed houses in Singapore and the chances of the client entrusting this huge responsibility to you. Out of all this, around I think 1,800 practicing architects right now, to take over a project that's around 3 million, maybe they bought the land price, and to renovate the whole thing, maybe 1 to 2 mil. That is a huge responsibility. So the fear, I think, is always with the fear of falling short of the expectation, and I think that is a great driver for us to always keep up to try to meet this expectations of our client, to serve him well and try to deliver the best project that we can.
So if, for example, I mean, we've talked about, whether we're afraid of clients in terms of, let's say they were intimidating us, and I think Wen Tian did answer more on the fear of falling short of the delivery. But I think the question is, if they were very aggressive and intimidating to you, so maybe Wen Tian, how would you then handle such a situation, apart from just being afraid of falling short of expectations?
Right. So I think it's always we have to stand a professional ground, which is we are professionals. Okay, so we have to always maintain that level of professionalism. Firstly, the other aspect is to handle this project in a way that is serving the client's interests, but at the same time understanding what's the requirements of a professional. Which in this case, I think it is perfectly fine to be slightly afraid, but still carry out your duty well to serve the client.
Okay. I mean, with that being said, then the next question is, what actually determines, your completion of the project, the design? Is it the design? Is it compliance, or compliance to the client's wants and needs? Is it purely the wants and needs, the brief, or is it compliance to your duty as an architect?
Actually, I think what Wen Tian mentioned, right, is the fear of not meeting the expectations is something that perhaps, again, same thing as what I mentioned earlier, right? I try to find a guiding principle, and that may not necessarily be from the client's perspective, but in terms of managing expectations, I mean, aside from architecture, right, everything is similar. You buy a Cai Fan, right? You want the meat, one veg. You expect to get that. But if the person gives you 2 veg, no meat, then be like, hey. So it's always about that expectations. And because of that, I think, your follow-up question about the brief, is it about just delivering the brief? Is it about whatever the client wants? I think those will be reconciled once you're mindful of the fact that it is about expectations and it is about you as a service provider. So that's a first step towards reconciling that.
Yeah, I thought that's a fantastic point about expectation brought up by Alvin. I think always the conflict comes from mismatch of expectations.
Yeah, I think so.
And then that's when it's especially important for us as architects, young ones, to really learn about communicating expectations well and true at the onset. Because I feel that in projects that if you have set out the expectation well through documentation of project, through explaining the contract clearly, that is managing expectations. And that's when the clearer the picture of this expectation, the lower the chances of conflicts. So this is the lower the chances. I think this is an interesting point because I always tell my clients that this project will not be 100% smooth. I always tell them, yes, I'm managing expectation. I always tell them that this project, there will be 10% there will be things going wrong. But if I'm not good enough, if I'm not here, it will be 50%. So, right? Okay, you can learn that. But that's always how I love to start a project because I have not encountered any projects that is 100% smooth, right? So managing expectation is a fantastic way to start a project. But we can get to the details of that, but we're happy to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, maybe I circle back a little bit to the point I made. I think we have to see it as, it's really, as a service provider, the employer or the client is engaging me as a service provider. And there's no reason why they should be intimidating, right? We are professionals. They need us to provide our expertise so that they can get something that they want. Yeah, so it's a professional relationship. There shouldn't be a need to be intimidating. And if they are, then, and you feel intimidated, then it seems like dynamics is a bit off. Yeah. Whether you can try and balance that's a skill. And if you're not able to, then you have to be careful because you may be getting into something. A project is quite long, right? Like a house, at least 3 years maybe designing plus construction and all that. And so can you take that kind of pressure, and concurrently you have a few projects like that. So that's something which you have to be quite careful with. What are you getting yourself into? And another thing, yes, about the managing of expectations. I think I learned something from Wendy. Yeah, how do you kind of lay out the whole overview of the project and give them certain warnings on what may happen. Yeah, so I thought that's a good way to start the project. Yeah.
I think as professionals, obviously we are all understanding what we are talking about in terms of like conditions of contract, how to run a project, what's the expectations, what should the clients do, what should us as architects do. But I think the problem that we very often encounter is that even with everything laid out in black and white, everything in detail, they can turn around and tell you, I don't know what. You are the professional, you should be taking care of everything, and then you should solve all these problems. And then let's say if you lay out the brief, but they're constantly asking for changes, then what happens? That's sort of like a scope creep, which, to be fair, to be the devil's advocate, if I'm a layman, I would say, what is scope creep? I don't know what. I engage you as an architect, I expect everything to be taken care of. Suddenly I think about this is better for my house. Why can't I do it? How would you then handle?
Because it wasn't stated at the start in the contractual drawings.
Yeah.
So I mean, okay, maybe I'll just pass this over to. I don't want to be talking too much. I just answered the previous question.
For my company, we've had problems like that, definitely, because especially for houses, because it's something for their own use for a very long time. Definitely they will change their mind along the way, because they may travel and then they see something, okay, I like this, how can I make my house somewhat similar? So I think firstly we have to understand that there will always be changes. It's impossible not to have, right? Which is why the contract has instructions, right? The instructions is to allow us to effect changes, design changes. So first thing is our expectations. We must understand that. We must understand from the point of view of the client. At the same time, how to set the boundaries. So for me, or for how we practice, is that we, in the service agreement, the conditions will state very clearly what are the conditions when we have to start charging for additional fees. Yeah, so it's based on GFA. Yeah, so it's based on how much of the change, because we can measure it, right, in the plan. Okay, this has been changed, and then it reaches a certain percentage. Beyond that percentage, I have to charge. So at the very start, of course, the same thing. Talking about there will be problems and all that. So same thing. Go through very clearly. State. Let them know these are the conditions, and I'll emphasize on that, because there are so many exclusions and all this. But this is important, so I would emphasize on it. Yeah. And of course, sometimes when they start to want to make changes, then I will have to tell them, okay, if you make this change, I'm going to have to redo my submissions. I'm going to have to, and I bring back this clause again. It's above a certain percentage. Yeah, I think it's fair for us. It's not like we are trying to get something extra out of it, that we're not doing the work. So I think it's fair to actually bring it up and let them know beforehand. Yeah.
So obviously it's not an easy topic to talk about.
It's not. Yeah.
Am I right to say that what you're saying is that you are okay? Let's say the client will definitely be unhappy. When it comes to dollars and cents, you got to pay more. Clients most of the time will be unhappy. Sure. So you're willing to put your foot down to say, look, this is how it's going to work. I'm going to have to charge you this. By hook or by crook, that's the way moving forward. Or is there going to be room for negotiation?
There's always room for negotiation. So even though the clause is there, to be honest, I have to also be honest, very seldom we will effect that, because again, talking about that relationship, we want to have a give and take relationship, so it's not always black and white. So if the changes are small, it's okay. We're not going to make a lot of it doesn't require a lot of effort to kind of redo certain things, then we kind of just let it go. Yeah. But it is there. The clause is there. We put it in so to protect us because we will never know whether something that is really big is going to come up, and So, but I have met very difficult clients, and there was once when we effected the clause, we even put in the documentation to tell him how much exactly we're changing and why we are charging it, because we have to do resubmissions. Yeah, because we had the sign off, but then he wanted to change, and it's a substantial change. It's almost like we're redesigning the whole house. But the client came back and looked at it and then immediately on the spot said, "You should be paying me because you're wasting my time." You see, it's ridiculous, yeah. But unfortunately, there are people like that, and very unfortunately also that in the end we couldn't claim for the additional work. Yeah. So it's really at a point where it's either we just get fired or we fire the client. Yeah, that kind of situation. So I think, yeah, it's a difficult topic to broach. Yeah, I must say. Yeah, so unfortunately for that situation, I don't have any answer on how we can actually really get out of it. Yeah.
I think because design is something that it's hard to quantify, right? And
No, but actually just to interrupt, I feel that we shouldn't take that as a starting point, that design is hard to quantify. Because once we think of that, right, we unwittingly mentally prepare ourselves to be flexible, because design is hard to quantify. What's to say this versus that. But I think the reality of it is that for all of us here and whoever else, right, who is running a business, is business first, architects second. That's how I try to differentiate or distance myself from the work that I need to claim, additional work, that I need to claim for the business versus what I feel, it's like, a small thing, it's okay, I can do it. So I think to me, that segregation mentally helps me, because otherwise sometimes I also like, shucks, man, or I get intimidated by the client or bank table and say, hey, no, you should be paying me for my time, right? Then I say, hey, let's not get irrational here. And I'm just telling you that the scope of work based on the brief that we both agreed on is this. Now you're deviated. As a matter of fact, there's additional work that needs to be done, right? So I think that helps in distancing yourself or separating yourself from the business entity or the business aspects of things. Because otherwise, sometimes you can have sleepless nights. I've done it before, and I still have the sleepless night, but maybe I can sleep better for most of the nights. So that helps.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say that I'm lucky enough not to have such a tough situation yet, young firms. But I think then learning from the experience from my seniors, young architects, it is important to set that expectation right at the start. So one of the things that I will include in my clause, or rather set the spirit of the contract, will be that abortive work must be paid. And then they, through this, enforcing this is a matter of laying that respect for the architect. And with that spirit, I think it's a great relationship to start off with. But if we do not even at the start talk about this, then confirm there will be things that go wrong down the line. But yeah, that's why it's always at the start. You engage me, I'm like that. It's like that because, come on, respect the professional. And down the line, this is the sort of like the spirit of this working relationship. I would like to believe that if I have communicated well, that we can lower the chances.
And at the end of the day, if you have done what you can to communicate the point across, right? And in the end, if there's still an issue, then at least you feel that I've done what I could, right?
Yes. Because
you can't please everyone, right?
The conditions have stated all possible scenarios that can go wrong. Yeah. And if you have not done your duty as the architect to go through every line of it and painting the possible scenario that can go wrong, then you're just brewing yourself for trouble ahead.
I think it's good that we're having this conversation, because even through what we've discussed so far, I feel like we've picked up a few things on how each other will handle a situation like that, and then we'll be able to improve. And hopefully for the viewers at home, you pick up a few things on how to handle such difficult situations. Another question is, I guess with the internet being so easily accessible right now, how many of you have actually met clients who feel like they know better than you? Because obviously
No.
they can Google, they can TikTok, they can go to Instagram, and there's a lot of information out there. As laymen, they are unable to kind of filter what exactly is the right information to follow, and constantly you are being challenged as an architect. Your clients feel like they are the architect and you're just their right hand to execute what they want. How would you handle such a situation?
I will tell them to turn off their handphones first before I meet them. Oh no, of course not. No internet devices, please. For me, I've experienced this for almost every project now. So it starts with TikTok, Instagram, in terms of products, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
what-
this lamp,
you know,
damn
wow,
show
the
lah.
China
Oh,
products.
damn show. Hey, this one can go on Taobao.
Yes.
Oh, you know. So you recommend a flows lamp? No, this is really too expensive. I got the same on Taobao. You know, this kind of thing. So, to me, I would say I cannot stop you from doing that because you're the client. But I think the bigger picture will be they also now ask ChatGPT. Yeah. So there's one category of things which is they search the net for all the images. I want this. Can you give it to me? And all the other downstream issues. There's also another category in which they use the internet, ChatGPT or equivalent, to cross-check your words. So I've experienced that before. Yeah. But not in a negative way. So there was one of my client, not a house client, it's for a bigger project, commercial project. So it's like, over a meal, right? You're showing me, hey, I asked ChatGPT about what the tenderer told us. Hey, yeah, it's correct. He said, cannot. Then I was like, yeah. Then I was thinking after that, so when we have our meetings with you, do you cross-check what we say? So after that, I went back to the office. I had a meeting with my guys, and then I told them this: you don't know, say don't know. Don't go smoke your way out. Last time you can do that. I used to do that, but if you don't know, good. Just say you don't know. Find out, then get back to the client. Because otherwise,
No, I was going to suggest that your staff has a ChatGPT also under the table. So they check first.
oh no, they do it on your laptops.
AI glasses, AI glasses. So I guess honesty is the best policy, right?
Yeah,
so if you don't know, you say you don't know.
Yeah,
Because
if you don't know,
it's prevalent for every project now.
Oh.
The internet, social media, Gen AI. Yeah.
So I think earlier on, one of you mentioned about the client turning back to you and say, hey, this is additional time, you're wasting my time. So the question is, should there be LD imposed on architects? I mean, we do have this in a clause for contractors, right? If they don't miss the deadline and etc. Is that something that is reasonable to consider to be imposed on architects as a service provider, as a professional?
Interesting idea.
So diplomatic.
Wait. My answer.
Who asked the question? Who asked such
Do you have
questions?
an interesting answer?
No, I have an interesting answer because
Mine's very boring.
LD requires a certifier, right? A judge.
Exactly.
Who judges
Yeah.
the LD
Yeah.
for architects? It can't be the client. He's the claimant, right? So
The client can only if he's willing to pay for a third
sure,
party.
external third party which will complicate time.
Yeah,
and money.
exactly.
You can.
Yeah, you
But
can.
then,
I'm not stopping
of
that.
course, I have to defend my profession, right?
Yeah, of course.
I think
Yeah.
that is the baseline for there shouldn't be any LD for architects. They already have means to control you through late payments, holding back your payments. Yeah. So those are the ways that I think it's already it's rather fair already, which is. But then I think no LD to architects doesn't make sense for me.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely, I mean, from architect's point of view, you don't want to get yourself in that situation when a client has look, because sometimes even when you have clauses like that, then it becomes very difficult because they may just attribute everything to you being late for something. Yeah, and we don't want to get ourselves in that situation. Yeah, which is also why I guess the blue book, right, that we have for SIU doesn't have something like that.
Of course.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, for us to get into that kind of trouble or that kind of situation. And like in terms of the way that we structure our payment should already be an assurance to the client, because it's not like we are claiming ahead of the work that we are supposed to do. It's always by the stages, how much work we complete, and also milestone stages. So we ourselves, we should be also motivated to want to reach that milestone so that we can make the claim. So that should already be sufficient, for the client to feel confident that we will be doing our job. So it doesn't make sense for us to get into that.
This question got us all excited.
Got the
I'm sure clients
You over the flames.
I'm sure clients will ask, but it's also the complication of who's going to certify it. And then it doesn't also make sense because if they really want to claim from someone who is not doing their duty from an architect, there are other channels to do that as well. It could be, of course, a civil kind of thing. Could be a
But maybe not even at that level. Just to add on, right? Yeah, that's one point, right? Is the external. You need an impartial external certifier, right, to see whether we are in delay. But I think the other one would be there's a board of architects. It's a regulated profession, so there are avenues in which we can be penalized for being shoddy of our work. That already is just like the avenue for builders is through LD. And that's only if the owner chooses to impose the LD. We don't have the power to do that, right? So I think different professions, different parties of the construction industry, each of them already have their own controls or regulations that will penalize them. So to further impose LD onto a professional practice like architecture, when there already is a BOA, not so sure.
But actually, the question is, so obviously I get the sensing that everyone is opposing to such a thing, such an LD, but the question is, would an LD be a blessing in disguise or not? Because to be honest, we can't say that all architects are going to be good, right? There's definitely good and
not
bad. Definitely there will be good and bad, right?
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
or even a situation where we have done everything that we could, but then it somehow, the fault falls onto us or something. But would the LD then limit the claim from the client? Like, for example, if there was no LD rate specified, the claim could have been exorbitant. But if you set, if there's any delay through our fault, this is the rate, and you have the right to set the rate that you're comfortable with, which is lower. Would it be something?
It's to me, I feel that, again, back to the original point, right, which is, I think, notwithstanding the fact that there could be some bad hats, so on and so forth, but ultimately it is still over and above that in which there is a professional body, and that is the avenue in which the client or whoever else who may be dissatisfied with our service, and if rightly so, they have an avenue to feedback to the body, which will then in turn do an investigation and penalize us. This is just another different form of penalty compared to LD on the contractors. And essentially, if there already is a form of penalty, it doesn't make any more sense to further layer it on with other forms of penalties, because it borders on being unfair, right? So I would take that approach. Yeah.
Agree. Yeah, I would rather that because bad hats, I think I would choose to believe is a minority. So I think BOA and also the clients themselves, they can take legal action, and I don't think there is a need for something like that to be in the service agreement.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, because we should also not get into the project not setting ourselves to fail. It seems to be quite a strange starting point. To say that, I think I may be late for this, and then I will set a very low rate. To get myself. It doesn't quite work for me.
I had this situation, just to share, right? I went in for a tender. So the organization has this LD clause for consultants. We had this briefing, right? And then they flash out these slides. And it says LD for consultants. I think it's $300 a day, 300. So I looked at it and then I asked, does this apply to us? And yeah, of course, yeah. So I said, usually you don't LD us because of the board of architects already. We're under the board of architects, so if there's any issues, you just go to them, then penalize, blah, blah, blah. So then I also asked them, under what circumstances do you impose this LD? I'm just curious. And they said, for example, if you're late in your submissions. And then before I could respond, the person explaining, right, quickly came and said, but I know a lot of factors are at play. We cannot entirely just pin it on you. So this is just something that we put in the contract. don't worry, we won't impose on you, but you'll be there.
Oh my gosh.
So I said,
That sounds.
that's not quite fair, right?
Yeah.
So then the team, another person came out and mentioned that, oh, you know what, if you're not happy with this, you just don't bid for it. So it was a very, it's almost like a deterministic statement. So I didn't bid for it. I actually wrote in to SIA about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay if you put it in, but you explain to me so that I know how I should perform. But if you tell me, oh, it's always been there, don't worry, you won't impose it, that's not very assuring, I feel.
Yeah, it's not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, my fear is that it becomes a client's weapon and it may cloud your decisions to make a professional choice on cutting corners because you're fearing of this money imposed, LD imposed on you, and I think it should be left out. And as it is, like Alvin mentioned, there's already a mechanism in place. So that's our answer to this.
So I mean, with this whole topic about reputation and financial losses, so Robert Bosch of the Bosch company, you've ever once said that he would rather lose money than lose the reputation. So what are your thoughts on such a statement?
He must have done something right to start with. I think what he left unsaid could be that, and it applies to a lot of things, right? Which is, if you look at something in isolation, then it doesn't quite make sense. If I look at a single project and I'd rather lose money than lose my reputation, you lose a lot more, because if it's only just one isolated project. But as a business, in terms of managing your risk, and this is not just for architecture, right? You're going to have a wide spread. You're going to hedge your bets, right? So you've got a few different projects, different stages. So I think, I'm in no position to criticize what he says, but I think he probably said in the context of, I've got this huge company, certain things I can make a loss, but that client is important to me. I want to service a client. It's okay, I can cover it with the other ones. But that's his business risk. So I think there's no right or wrong to that statement, but it has to be seen in context and in the context of a business. If I only have one project and I've got to pay my bills, oh, for sure, I'm just going to service a client. But you manage your risk. Yeah. That's my take.
Okay, so I think along our profession of servicing clients as a service provider, a lot of things are within our control, but one of the things that is beyond our control is the time that the client takes to respond. And more often than not, we are expected to keep the timeline. We are timekeepers of a project, but there are instances where clients take longer than required or longer than expected to reply, and if that is constantly happening, that will kind of snowball your project timeline. And how are you going to manage such a situation, or what is a fair timeline for the clients to respond? Do you experience that in your projects, or?
All the time.
Okay, not all the time, but there are certain things which maybe there are certain things which may, okay, again, it's contextual. Maybe there are certain things which are, okay, I think maybe I should put it this way. We have to understand what is the difficulty that they are facing. Why is it they're taking so long? And for me, like, how then do we try and speed up the process? Yeah, like for example, maybe one client is more about cost. So in the end, what happened is that we had to spend more time to visit more suppliers to find the right products within the right price range. And okay, I think that is fair, but at the same time, we have to always constantly remind, okay, but at the start, the way that we we'll look at the construction program, we'll also set timelines. Yeah, so we must make the client understand, okay, so there are certain timelines for client as well. So that must be clear right from the start. And then understand what are the problems, why are they taking so long, and we have to again remind them, okay, we cannot go beyond that timeline, or if not, then it will cause a delay in the program. Yeah, so I think we have to always put the ball back in their court and then say, okay, the ball's in your court, you cannot drop the ball. Yeah, you drop the ball, and then
you involve them, right?
Yeah. So we have to be very clear. That's one thing. Another is again like customizing the kind of solution for them. Yeah, sometimes it's cost, sometimes it's sometimes, as you mentioned, like they see too many things, they don't know
Yeah, exactly.
what to choose.
They themselves get overwhelmed.
Yeah, so sometimes we really have to step in and tell them, okay, analyze it for them and
that's right.
get the decision going. That's why I think, so be very clear with the timelines.
Yep.
Tell them that this is their responsibility, or else it will contractually then we'll have to award EOT and things like that.
So, I don't know, but because for me, I have experienced situations where obviously I've done my part to tell the clients, look, we're running short of time on this stage where it's a few weeks left. After you come back with your feedback, I still need time to capture it, to make the changes. But they are taking their own sweet time. And of course, we always got a balance between enforcing the time, being hard, more hard on this, or being the nice service provider and say, it's okay, take your time.
But because you're a service provider, therefore it is not all, it's not all rosy,
Right. There's a time.
Because you're the
There's
service
time
provider,
aspect to
you
this
entrust
project.
me with your house, for example, or whatever project.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And
it's our
therefore-
duty
it's
to
my
also
duty to tell you
manage that timeline.
the
to help
good
them
and the
manage.
bad.
You want to move in by Chinese New Year?
Yeah, exactly. You want to move to China? No problem. Yes, you can give me a decision by now. But if not, it's okay, no problem. I can wait. But you don't move in by Chinese New Year, can you take it? Of course, I wouldn't say can you take it, but
in a nicer way.
it's a fact, right? So the timeline shifts.
Yeah.
If you're fine with that, then the client might say, oh, it's okay, I don't need to move in by Chinese New Year, for example. I would rather spend more time to decide on certain things now.
Yeah.
Then there is an alignment of the expectations. So I think there's a lot of avenue. Usually I don't think it's that antagonistic. I feel.
And just to add on one point, it's always good to leave a paper trail for that.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So instead of
Not
just
WhatsApp, huh?
speaking,
For sure.
WhatsApp or maybe
Okay,
actually
WhatsApp.
usually I will follow up with email.
Email
So
lah,
I'll
for
say
sure.
that on this date, I've mentioned this is this. Yeah, minute it in a sense, so that there is some kind of record.
Yeah.
It's easier to track back.
Huge
Yeah,
point.
can track.
Documentation,
I mean,
expectation.
that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you have experienced this before. I mean, like what I've done, I've documented it. I reminded them, send emails. Look, if you don't finish by come back with feedback by this day, it's gonna delay. 2 months later, they're questioning me, interrogating me. Why is it delayed? I don't understand. How come so long? What caused this? But it somehow it feels like they don't remember what happened before. Have you all experienced such a situation before?
I had a bad experience with that. Yeah. So in the end, the client didn't want to pay me. So every delay they blame on me, even though I got a record, even though I showed it. As a last resort, because sometimes it's just a little bit. I email you, see. So, but I think that's the exception. I think one tactic that I use is every meeting, I remind again. Hey, by the way, as I mentioned last week, you haven't made a decision. It's okay, but I need you to know that there's downstream impact. So it just has to be that way, I guess. So I can help you with the short-term memory.
So I would say your strategies would be leaving paper trail, sending constant reminders, and making sure that we've done our right.
It could be part of your job as a service provider to a layman, right, who is doing a house or doing some project.
Yeah, we are service providers, but we're not magicians.
Yeah,
And we cannot make suddenly
right.
appear, or like
Yeah.
the work is suddenly done in a really short amount of time. Yeah, it's impossible. Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting topic because recently I've had a similar situation with a client where I did talk about additional fees, and the response was, throughout this time, our meeting, when I meet you, I only met you for 2 hours, man. Then I was thinking, I meet you for 2 hours, but what happens after the 2 hours? Things don't magically get done, right? So that's something that I think that we need to kind of share with the clients along the way. I think aligning, letting them understand what we do is of utmost importance.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I feel that it may not be related to whatever we're discussing, but I feel that a lot of times the visibility of the work that you do to the client, right, is sometimes lacking, and we don't realize it. You just meet for 2 hours, and then you disappear, right? And then 1 week later, another 2 hours. To the client, right, it's just 2 hours, like you said. But everything that goes on behind is not visible to them. So I think that's something that we sometimes fall into without knowing it. And I suppose this podcast helps.
How else do you think that we can give more visibility to the efforts that we as architects
So you can be very strategic about it in giving, let's say, between weekly meetings, in between 1 or 2 updates on. Oh, by the way, on our meeting 2 days ago, I'm testing out certain things. I'll get back to you. So at least there's this visibility. Yeah. Or yeah, I mean that's probably one of the
Updates
easier
that you're
ways.
on.
Yeah,
you're
updates,
still working on.
Yeah, which is
But
true.
still
Right?
working
I mean,
By the way, I've tested this. It doesn't work. I'm moving on to the next option.
Yeah.
So that indeed, I agree that.
Yeah,
really
yeah,
help,
that,
right?
yeah, that's right.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
to
The
not
time we
just
discussed
show
it.
the final one, but
Correct, yeah.
there
The
are
process,
there were
right?
options, and
Yeah.
we've done certain things, but that didn't work. Yeah,
And
I think that's a good point.
It's part of this bigger question about value of an architect. Okay, we're getting a bit off topic, but the value of architect, people don't value the work that an architect does because people don't know what an architect does. It's as simple as that. And why do they not know? Because you're not sharing it with them. Because the only thing you share a lot is either the design, which is the final design with all the nice renders, or I got to do this submission to the RA, I got to go BCA, I got written direction. So they just see you as a submission architect. But all the other processes is opaque. That's my opinion.
But you're assuming that they think that the drawings are hard to do. But some of the clients, they'll think that the drawings are easy to do. That's
How many
that's
of you
the
have
worst.
ever had somebody say, "Wow, why is it so expensive? You all do a few drawings only." Anyone experienced this before?
Yeah, then after the meeting, I go in my car and I yell out loud. Oh, I know very hard to. I don't know. You just have to take it in the chin.
Yeah, that's one of the trigger topics for me also.
yeah. It's tough.
Okay. In the course of running a project, midway through, there are design changes. So who should pay for the VOs for such design changes? Does it come from the contingency sum for such design changes?
No, in this case, you're talking about design changes that the client wants, right? Is it correct?
Or your design improvement.
Design
Or our own design improvement, and it has to. Okay, well, okay.
depends, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I mean,
how you approach it
it's
is
very
different,
clear.
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very clear if it's a design change and then it results in a variation. Then, and of course, if the client it's the client's decision, then of course, it comes from the contingency. So if there is within the contract, essentially it means that the client has to pay for it, right? But if it's something that we voluntarily improve on, I don't think we can immediately assume that the client has to pay for it because we have to justify why we want to make that change.
Try to explain to the client first and so on.
Yeah,
before you even,
to explain to the
effect that
client.
change.
Yeah, why is it that we are suggesting this? And of course, if we didn't do our duty and then maybe it was a compliance thing and then we had to make it right, then I think that is another. Yeah, I mean, of course, the client will pay for it first, but they may then say that okay, it's our fault. We have to then compensate them. Yeah, so I think that is fair, like, if that's the case. Yeah.
So for design changes, like if you want to improve on it, then you probably will highlight to the clients first, that this is what you're thinking about.
I would guess so, because it belongs to them, right? So it's not your development. I think that's as another point would be, I think it's back to what we discussed right at the start, right? Which would be, are you afraid of the client, right? Or intimidated? So I think the points you brought up was about expectations and managing it as a service provider. I tend to be optimistic about this design variation thing, right? Because I feel that if your relationship with the client is good, it's based on aligned expectations, even a design change that might come up from an oversight, or variation, that come up from an oversight. In my own experience, the client usually is like, okay, fine,
Yes.
let's just move on.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
okay.
I agree, yeah.
Especially if it also improves the design, then okay, so why not? As long as it's not an exorbitant sum.
It goes back to the point that we made earlier about that relationship and dynamic
correct. That's
with the client.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you start off being like very antagonistic or you start off being like very subservient, then I don't think you have that much room to negotiate. Yeah, if you are, I'm just a service provider, I'm not really, I'm equal standing, I'm professional, I should be able to then have a very decent negotiation.
Yeah. So what about, for example, in situations where it's a cost saving thing. So when it comes to a stage where the contractor looks at it and say, you know, I'm sure you've met situations where the contractor talk to the client without your presence, and they go, actually, I can help you save X amount of dollars, you know, if you change this and change that. And that actually will result in you having to do a lot of work to capture the changes. Now, would you do a claim on additional fee or things like that for because very often I think clients can only focus on, oh, there's cost savings, I will do it. Can you help me do it? And then they just take it for granted that my architect's going to change, you know, I'm going to save money. But without realizing that we are actually, you know, burning resources to help them save money. Would you typically charge an additional fee for such a demand and request?
I guess it depends on the extent of the change. If the change affects what's already been approved with the authorities, then that's the resubmission required. So that gives a very easy reason for the additional charges and fees. But if the change is in the context of the project minor, or something that's not going to take up so much of your resources, then it's your own judgment call whether you're okay to accommodate. For example, let's say we change the WC.
No, those are easy.
Those are easy, right? I mean, I'm using a very super low line code. Okay, shift the wall. Oh, that's quite easy too. So I think it depends. But I think that the takeaway from that is more of, yes, I can do it for you, but we will rather not continue to make these changes because it might jeopardize the overall timeline or things like that. That, you know, you can't. It's not a blank check lah. So I guess it depends on the context.
Yeah, it depends on the context, the extent of the change. Again, going back to the point about quantifying the amount of changes and then setting a rate to it right at the start. Yeah. So again, yeah, if it requires a lot of work, then of course it's fair. We just need to make sure like we have the contractual clause to cover that.
That's true.
It kind of reminds me in situations like that. If I'm not wrong, PSS AOC allows the contractor to get some kind of additional fee or something else. I can't remember. Sorry. Yeah, but then I also then think about it. Yeah, why are not architects rewarded for you know, helping them think of ways along the way that it doesn't, of course, jeopardize the design or any compliance issues. Yeah, but we are not actually rewarded for things like that. No. Yeah. Not too sure about really wanting to put a clause in to say, oh, okay, if you save a certain amount, and then I'm entitled to that a certain percentage. Yeah. But I think it's still that point about being very clear and setting the boundaries. How much more work am I supposed to do, and it has a value to it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I suppose if you set a reward, right, as an architect, you can design it such that it's so expensive, and then after that, value design it back to cost saving.
No, that's for the bad hats.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry.
No,
Yeah, but how about maybe because there are bound to be design improvements along the way of a project. Have we all considered design contingency sum proposed to your clients? Which means at the start inbuilt already, right? I'm considering to try something like that. Because it will happen, and you want to manage the expectation right on the onset to tell them that, hey, there may be things that maybe you may want to improve certain design, or I may have sudden ideas on the details of stuff. We can use the design contingency sum to work on it. But I feel that at the start, if they have set aside a certain budget on such scenarios, they are more willing to do it than you have it as a view.
True.
So it's something for
it's about the controlling of expectations, setting
right
expectations.
Yeah,
because if you don't use it, they see it as a saving.
Yes.
And if they use it, they say, okay, it's actually part of the contract sum.
Your design is so good since the start.
Yeah. So that's good. I mean, contingency sum, yes, but I never thought of it as a separate one, which is more for design.
X amount fees. Then, by the way, 1% design contingency.
Something for us to think about.
Yeah, but that is utilizing that psychology of okay, this is like kind of like the money I'm prepared to pay out anyway. Yeah, and you apportion a certain amount more for contingencies like that. Yeah,
because
may not be a bad idea.
the way I see it is that the condition of contract already set a baseline, and we should be using our experiences to try to watertight this contract in your own experience or the way that your practice wants to do it. So that's how I think, at least that's how I would try to approach crafting contracts, and try to, as we grow experience, make this contract covers all grounds, and manage the expectation of the client since the onset. Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you, I mean, obviously we finished many projects already. So towards the very end of the project, when you finish the project, you take a step back. I mean, I don't know if all of you do that. I always take a step back and then you feel like, you're satisfied with the work.
But that detail is not.
Yeah, but the clients are not satisfied with it. So I don't know how many of you have ever experienced such a situation where you have done your part to deliver the brief, but the client obviously had a change of mind or heart along the way, and they felt that you have not delivered your brief, but in actual fact you have done your job according to the brief set out at the very start.
Usually in my experience, at the tail end of a project, the clients like that, the relationship has already been damaged somewhere along the way. Yeah, so usually that will be the case. And I don't know, my opinion, if it's really like that,
I agree.
there's not much you can do except to ask yourself whether you truly did your best, and then you just move on from there.
Because I think it's about the openness of the communication.
Yeah.
If they already, because again, the building is not something that it just magically appears, right? It takes a long time to take shape, and the client must have seen it towards completion or take shape along the way. And if there are problems, they should be communicating it with you. Usually it won't be really at the end. If you're talking about the finished product and they're not happy with it, and maybe sometimes just small parts here and there. Imperfections. Yeah. But if that's the case where they are really unhappy with the whole project, then I think there's some communication breakdown along the way. Yeah.
But if it's to a point where they're not willing to release your fees to pay, and the contractor, obviously they have done their job to a certain extent that you can apply for CSC, right? And once that is complete, I mean, we all know, right, that is kind of your last leverage for claiming your fees or anything. Once you finish, you have no leverage at all. So what do you do at such a situation when you feel like you've done your job, but the client is just saying, no, I'm not going to pay you, you guys did not do what you're...
I'm not going to pay you as a consultant, or
as a
I'm not going to pay
consultant,
the
as a
contractor?
consultant.
Consultant.
Yeah.
What is usually our last stage of the CSC?
CSC. Go to small claims tribunal, yeah.
But will you apply for the CSC?
No, that's
Because they have
certification.
outstanding fees to you.
I will apply because it's a compliance issue. It's different from the business end of things. So
Right.
compliance and business end of things must be separate. Because if you don't apply for CSC, even though it's ready for CSC, then that's a different issue. You cannot say they're not paying me, so I don't do it, right? But you can apply for CSC.
But you have the right to stop your services if you're not being...
You're only paid after you get the CSC, ma.
Correct. No, the earlier stage.
Earlier stage.
Yeah.
Oh, then yes. That means if you're not paid for earlier stage, you don't do the later stages.
Yeah.
That's okay. Because
Because the project is already at the stage where it's ready for CSC. And
so you're not paid for, let's say, the TOP stage, assuming it's separate lah.
Yeah.
Then you don't go CSC. There are other ways of handling non-payment from clients, like for example, official documents, you don't get hold of it because you didn't pay me, I don't give you. So I mean, there are other ways, but if they do not pay for earlier stage, then there's no reason for you to continue the later stage, even though it's ready. It's just business.
Yeah, because it's already a breach of contract on their end.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you have to exercise your rights within the contract. Yeah.
So on a lighter note, let's have a competition. Who has the longest delay in payment that you have experienced so far?
Never pay.
Yeah.
Never pay.
Yeah,
Haven't even the full sum.
yeah. That's not. Yeah. But I realized that actually it's something like what Wen-Tian is saying, that the service agreement is almost like a live document, because every project you kind of realize, oh yeah, this client, the pattern, okay, I must go and like next project I must make sure I put in this clause to, so it's almost like a live document. We are always looking at how to improve it further so that it's more watertight. So one of the things is actually to adjust the payment stages. Sometimes it's good to put the weightage a bit more in front.
Front-loaded.
Yeah, okay. But maybe this one is a bit more specific to ID projects, because ID, I think, and architecture is a bit different. Architecture, your last stage is CSC, but so essentially, again, is using the imported documents as a leverage. But for ID, what we find out is that for some reason, quite many clients like to skip out on the last few payments. And by then, they already have the finished product, right? And they will find excuses to not pay you, even though you've done your job. So what we realize is that we have to adjust the percentages to front load it more. So even if they skip out on the last one, maybe it's not that
It's
big of a
managing the
loss.
risk, right?
Managing the risk. Yeah, how you manage the risk.
And there are also avenues for you to claim, because
there
ultimately
is.
it depends on
There
how
is. How much it is.
how much is one thing,
Yeah.
but it's a matter of principle, right?
Yeah,
Because
true.
everybody's running a business,
True.
right? It's a matter of principle, or maybe because you really can't stand the client, but okay, separate thing. There are avenues, lah. It's how far you want to go, Mr. Client, with this. I feel that I've done my work. You don't want to pay me. How far do you want to take this? I can go with you. So it's see who blinks first, but it's unpleasant.
Yeah, it's unpleasant.
Nobody wants to go
and you
there.
have to spend time to.
That's
do
right.
it. So is it okay? For me, it's not. But then again, what Alvin is saying is it's a matter of principle.
Sometimes
Like if you let it go, and then it becomes like a norm. To skip out on the last payment.
So you mentioned earlier, the different excuses the clients use for delaying the payment. What is the funniest excuse that you have heard for late payment?
I won't say it's funny. It's more like strange. We always have this WhatsApp group. For each project, clients will be inside and all that. And quite strangely, the client just at the end of project handover, and immediately after handover, the client just quit the group. And then totally, so I message them, I email them, no response at all, as if they really disappeared. And they don't even give an excuse. Quite sad.
But I think it's important to say that these kind of things do happen.
It does happen. So we have to be
be mindful of our mental health also.
Yeah.
Because certain projects we have really done our best. But there won't be perfection, right? I really say there won't be perfections. But we don't be too hard on ourselves also. This is linking to the mental health of young practitioners. Because I do, at the start of the practice, beat myself over certain decisions that I've not made, that cause certain, things to happen to a project. And I wonder whether I've done enough, professionally as a young architect. So,
but just a caveat to that, I think it's not just young architects. Along the way, I think even for the older group, I think it's prevalent throughout. Just that
so then
we
that's
probably don't
encouraging
talk
to
so
hear
much about it.
So as you grow,
I strongly
you still
believe so.
feel this.
Of course. Not that I'm an older.
But it's great to hear.
I'm
But as
quite
long as the spirit is trying to get the best out of the project, and you have done your best as a professional.
That's why it's compliance to yourself, right? In the end, you need to reconcile yourself with why you're doing this, and don't try not to take it personally.
Which takes
a lot of
mindfulness
effort
and
and
experience.
mindfulness,
And after a while, you'll be like, oh, I can be like that. And then don't beat yourself up. That's something that is for sharing.
Okay guys, so we're gonna end this with don't beat yourself up. Thank you for joining us today, and stay tuned for the next one. If you have liked the session today and find it useful and helpful, we would really appreciate if you would like and subscribe to our channel so that it will encourage us to continue doing what we do and bring more exciting topics to you.